All right. Hello, everyone. So I think a lot of people or whoever's on is on the other one. So I'm going to wait a few minutes so that people find this one. So what happened is that I started a live stream on Patreon, but it didn't connect with my YouTube channel. So as per usual, problems. So I'm really glad that I'm deciding on this new setup where I make these separate videos and then keep this whatever happens. So is on here. If you could, hey Bati, if you could, for me, please, because I have this page open, if you can go to the Patreon post that I had before with the incorrect link, if you can go there and just write, this is no longer the right link. That would help me a ton. So I hope everyone's day is going well. I noticed some people coming into the other one, so I know it'll take a while. If you're watching this after, scroll, fast forward the video. Hey Juan. Okay, so people are finding this link. How's everyone's Sunday? How did you all like the vlog? That was sort of the first. I think a lot of my videos are vlogs, but this was really a vlog. And it was fun putting it together. And like I said, I plan to make this a regular part because I know quite a number of people here on Patreon, they're in completely different time zones, so it's impractical to really make use of this live stream here. I'm gonna turn this off, sorry guys. But as you could see in the vlog, that trip was quite busy, quite special because I got to spend some time with friends of mine that I haven't seen in a long time. Sekbyul is great. She and I were roommates 4 years ago now, almost 5 years ago here in Toronto, and we really bonded since then. It was very, very great to see her. The last time I saw her was probably 2 years ago, so it's really great. Hi Holt. So I put the vlog out yesterday. Sometime this week I plan to make a video because I've been eyeing the live stream topics. There's one that I really want to share more information about, and that's the one Charles asked about beginning to improvise on chord progressions in the style of Bach. And that's something that I am really personally interested in. And as you can see from some previous videos on my channel, I've touched upon it. I have a how to sound like Bach video, but that one doesn't fully go into the practice of how to take that and practically apply it into your practice sessions. So I'm going to that's the next small video that I'll put together. I hope you liked the last one. I hope you saw it. It was on motivic markers, and I chose a Bach prelude to show that example, but you could really apply that to most pieces, and I'll keep revisiting it because there's a lot to be talked about, and there are a lot of nuances to that type of analysis and practice. So I'll apply it to other pieces as well. Hi, everyone who's joining. I like how we're, the regulars are here, and I know a lot of it has to do with time zones, and it's really, really cool. Have you started working on Debussy Nocturne? No, I haven't. I've actually never played it. I've featured it in my Nocturne video that I did, half a year ago or so. But I was talking about it with my friend because we were talking about potential Debussy pieces for her to play. So I encouraged her to play it, but she already played it. So that was really cool. would be interested to hear more about improvising in the style block. Yeah, so that I'll put together. And vlogs, I know I edited the Patreon page about that, but I plan to make one vlog at least a month. And obviously, depending on what I'm up to that month, it'll be different. Like the style will be different. But I guess because my primary interest is music and spreading enthusiasm around music, information around music, whatever bits about music, I really want to make it a point to at least include a little bit of insights, personal insights surrounding music in the vlogs. Although, since the bulk of what I do on a regular basis is music anyway, I think just natural documentation of what I'm up to will involve heavily music. Let's see. So as you can tell, I'm still a little sick. It's been taking me a while to get this out of my system. But this weekend, I feel much better than the last. I finished filming with PBS 2 days ago. So they were in New York with me, and we filmed a bunch of stuff. We filmed some ballroom footage. So not the traditional ballroom dance, but this sort of up and coming, yet pretty mainstream movement that involves a lot of DJing, a lot of dancing, the trans and gay community, and costuming. It's very elaborate, but maybe I'll make a vlog on that experience as well. But so far, it's been funny because we've been almost plagued with rain everywhere in Chicago, when they were actually here in Toronto too, and New York. We were always facing rain. So there are some shots in this ballroom episode where I'm doing my lines under an umbrella. So that was really funny. Hello. I don't know how to pronounce your name with the symbol over the A, but Paul, Joe Chip, Holt Sanders, Juan Bati. Okay, yes. Let's see. By the way, Sepio is an amazing pianist. I've spoken about her before in other circumstances, and we did an Instagram live stream together when we were in Chicago. But I really learned a lot from her because her approach and my approach overlap in ways, but we're very different in terms of pianists. And I always find how she works very fascinating because she was sort of trained in a different way since she was little in Korea, where technique was extremely emphasized. And it's sort of, she has this, and it's mostly her, I think. She has this unique talent of just being so in touch with the instrument and the physicality of the instrument that it's almost a no-brainer for her to get that going when she's learning a piece, when she's practicing. So I think that's really interesting. Whereas for me, on the hearing side of things, I'm kind of much more comfortable, and then I really have to work on the physical aspect, which is why I make a lot of videos on developing that. And it's actually quite funny because I think many viewers who don't follow my stuff thoroughly, they have the opposite impression that technique is sort of my forte, and I made recordings of her playing that we can listen to. Yeah, she has some stuff online. Let me write her name, you'll find it. Piggybacking on something that I talked about during the first live stream when I was talking about relaxation. Oh, I think it's, okay, there we go. I've been recently in touch with the guitarist Rick Graham, who's a huge inspiration to me. I really love his stuff. He's incredibly unrealistically good. But we had this conversation about relaxation where he spoke a lot about the importance of relaxation for him as a musician, as just a guitar player, in life in general, and how he gets a lot of inspiration from martial artists such as Bruce Lee on that topic. And he said something that really kind of summed it up. He said, in order for you to really understand what relaxation, you need to be aware of the opposite end of it. So be aware of what it feels like to be extremely tense. And then in feeling that comparison, you can truly know how to tap into relaxation. And that kind of goes to that exercise I showed where you hold out your hands, your arms, and then you imagine just all this tension built because you're hanging on to something very heavy. And then all of a sudden, imagining someone snapping that string and then letting go. I wonder, did any of you try that? I tried that this week after talking about it, and it helped. In the vlog, you mentioned you're planning to play Messiaen. I've recently discovered his music. Which one of his compositions would you recommend listening to, or you really like? He has this set called 20 Regards, and it's just a masterpiece. I've played the 10th one, and I really want to learn some of his preludes and the quartet for End of Time. I'll check those out. Really, really beautiful music. The 10th movement of the 20 Regards that I played previously is very, probably one of the most difficult pieces I've tackled. And I never played it and practiced it enough to the point where I got fully comfortable with it. It was actually for a concert. It was a one-off concert, so I never had to repeat it. And it's a shame because after that concert, I was just so exhausted from that short kind of sprint period of learning it and preparing it for the concert that I actually didn't take it further. So I was actually thinking of that when I was talking to Sepio. Could you talk a little about slow and fast practice and how each relate to learning to play fast? For me, slow practice is largely oral, because when you can really hear what's going on, as long as your fingers or your physical ability at the instrument is intact and in shape, those will come along. It's sort of coming from the ear first, and then in the physical sense, things will come together. Of course, you need to pay attention to both separately, but in slow practice, the advantage there is that you really get to hear everything separately, whereas when you always practice fast, you can't hear the individual parts. I know that, I think someone on the live stream mentioned, or somewhere, maybe Instagram, that Richter was famous for saying that he does not like slow practice. And I wonder where they got that from. I wouldn't be surprised. I think everyone is different with their approach. But also, speaking of my friend Sepio, she said that she doesn't like to practice slowly either, because I think, most of the pieces that she plays, because she's used to it and those tempi, she is able to hear everything. And I think that's a unique ability of hers. Sorry, there we go. Another thing is that slow practice allows you to pay attention to smaller details in the physical sense that you wouldn't probably not examine if you're playing too fast. Some things could be, for example, it could be related to hand positions, fingering. It could be touch. You could examine what you're doing much better. I hope that answers your question. There's a lot to talk about in terms of slow versus fast practicing. What was the name of that guitarist again? Rick Graham. He's from the UK. He's really, really, really an incredible person too. But as a musician, as a guitar player, very masterful. One one of the earliest takes of electronic instruments in classical music. Bati. Okay. Another friend of mine that I saw in Chicago is my friend Sean Ye. And seeing him, I was reminded of some of the earlier days of me playing the piano, because I've known him since we were 13. And I met him first when I went to this piano camp / festival in California. And it was the first of that sort that I've been to. And it makes me really think about environment as a musician, because you could, especially with today's technology and internet, you could really get a sense of community, but it's hard to get a full perspective of what's around, what is possible at your instrument, what you're capable of, what's all of these contextual things. It's hard to do that when you're just in isolation. But anyway, when I was 13, I went to this festival, and for the first time, I was amongst pianists who came from all over the country, actually all over the world, because there were quite a number of pianists who came from abroad. And it was the first time I got to hear and be in touch with other musicians of my age who were not in my studio, because none of my school friends were into music at the time. And the only people that I could mingle with musician-wise were the other pianists in my piano teacher's studio. So this was a huge eye-opener to me. And I remember at 13 seeing, 11-year-olds, 10-year-olds just play so beautifully, so well, so craft, with a lot of craft, and just at an advanced level. And that was very pivotal. It was a pivotal point for me, because I remember thinking, wow, first of all, I don't know what I'm doing. I am a lot more behind, whatever that means in music, than I thought. And it was life-changing as a musician. And I remember from that summer, for the next few years, I really was motivated by that kind of energy and that kind of exposure. And I started to kind of seek out other programs like that. I went to Aspen, Bowdoin. Where else did I go? I think I went to Aspen the most. I went to Aspen 7 times. And that's where I met a lot of my friends who I'm still friends with today. And we all went to college in the same area, and so on and so forth. But that really opened my eyes, and was a source of inspiration and motivation. But I really felt and I always still feel that way, but I always felt that during those early to late teenage years, I felt that I had no idea what I was doing, and everyone else was completely on top of it, and I had a lot to learn. And that is always true. I always feel like every day when I wake up, I always feel like I need to relearn a lot of things. Let's see. I said Messiaen, okay. Turangalila, I don't know how to pronounce that symphony. I actually don't know that piece. Bati always has really interesting piece recommendations, song recommendations, artist recommendations. So Bati, I'll do a piano update. Like I mentioned in the last stream, things are piecing together. There's been this incredible gentleman here on Patreon who has given me funds to get myself a keyboard. And in the midst of it, I'm actually using those funds for other projects. Hopefully, maybe it'll go into the album, or other things related to YouTube. But because the keyboard situation is being handled by Yamaha, they're sending me one of their new keyboards. So that is very very exciting, and I'm incredibly grateful. Everyone on here, everyone who's been supportive in this transition phase of mine, just I am at a loss of words in terms of how to express how I've been feeling around this, and I can't thank you all enough. And it's very, very cool that Yamaha is helping me out in this way. It was taking a bit of time to figure out the details. Also, I think you all can probably get a sense of this, but on my channel, I'm very hesitant to make or include anything that has a lot of marketing involved. So luckily, they're very cooperative in terms of respecting how I would like to present the situation. So it won't be a heavily, marketed type video. But they suggested me to do certain videos that are in line with what I already do. So basically, I have a lot of freedom, and it's very, very, very cool. But that will happen. It'll take another couple of weeks for that to come and get settled. So yay. Let's see. This symphony is one of the earliest usages of that early electronic instrument. Interesting. Let's see. Another thing. An upcoming video on YouTube will be on Bach canons, specifically in the Goldberg variations. And I talked about doing this Bach video, and it's been difficult trying to find an angle in terms of editing. But who here is familiar with Bach Goldberg variations and the canons involved in it? I was always a fan and just an admirer of the Goldberg variations, but I was never aware of how the canons were incorporated into those variations. And one of my mentors, David Louis, he is the one who recently showed me the details behind that. And it's really incredible. Every third variation in the piece is a canon. And so, for example, the first canon is a canon in unison. So there's a line, and that same line is introduced a couple bars after. The second canon, which is on the sixth variation, is a canon on the second. So that means that line is transformed a whole tone above. So it's really complicated stuff. I will try to find a way to explain this in simpler terms or in kind of easy to grasp terms on in the video. But the way he does that while incorporating the bass line, which is the bass line for all of the variations, is truly remarkable. It's, I can't even call it a puzzle. It's just, I don't know how he does it. So that is something that I've been editing. I really wanted to do a video comparing different instruments, and I was in touch with one of my friends in Toronto who has a small boutique piano shop, or I guess I should say had, because he's actually wrapping it up. So in this period where I was supposed to film with him, we ended up not being able to. So that was one video that I was really looking forward to doing, because I'm really interested in the subtle differences between instruments and the complexity behind it and why. So hopefully I can make that happen somewhere else. Let's see. Who checked out more of Casey Cangalosi's stuff with rhythms? I've been interested in polyrhythms lately. I think partially because of Adam Neely, how he had that 7-Eleven video. And for me, it's not, polyrhythms is something that I really love in music, but I never got into practicing it because, I think that is largely useful in an improvisatory setting. And, in reading polyrhythms, I've been very familiar with it, but in trying to recreate it, in this way of iterating it is new to me. So anyway, regarding that video, when I was in the van and at airports and things like that this past week, because I had a lot of transport time, especially with the PBS crew, where we would go from one location to the next, and we were traveling with van, and a lot of the times I would sit in the back. I'm not an awfully social person, so I feel comfortable socially in spurts, and then I always have to have a little bit of buffer time. And I was doing something with a napkin, trying to visualize polyrhythms in different ways, inspired by Adam's video and also Casey Cangelosi, and also an incredible pianist that I met recently, Andre Sims. Who is familiar with Andre here? He's an incredible pianist, composer, improviser, and he is in New Jersey. And we connected through Instagram and met up. He showed me some things at the piano. We were hanging out for about 2 hours, and I learned so much in those 2 hours, much of which I cannot process yet. But he was showing me this pattern, and he was trying to make me do things when there was a steady beat. And we came across the 4/3 polyrhythm, which is one of the more simpler ones. But I realized then that I'm not incredibly well-versed and comfortable with polyrhythm. So anyway, what I was doing, I know Adam shows, here I have a post-it. Adam showed in his video, so if you have a 4/3 polyrhythm, you could number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So 3 rows of groups of, it's hard to do, 3 rows of groups of 4, and then you circle every third. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Yes, 1, 2, 3. Or you could do it in reverse. You could do, let's see, you could do 1, 2, 3, like this, and then circle 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that gives you, if you're counting by 1, that gives you where they align and don't. Ben Levin, yes, of course. Ben is great. My gosh. And this is a very simple and clear way to do it. For me, I found that on top of that, what's very helpful is using circles and dashes and aligning it this way. So let me show you. So what I did, okay, this is, all right. So 3/4, 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then I would do groups of 4 3 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, when you look at this, sorry, it's not aligned, but if you do it perfectly aligned, let me do it again this way. 1, 2, 3, 1. Then you could see where they line up together. Do you know what I mean? Which is maybe because I'm a very visual person, that helps me more than the numbers. But the numbers also help because I don't know if you've seen my funk video, but the funk video I did in numbers. So I think just find whatever works for you. So ignore this one. So look here. So if you're feeling da 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 da, you can visualize where they align. Does that make sense? For me, it helped, and I was doing that with different configurations in the back of the van on a napkin, and it was fun. Gavin Harrison, okay, cool. Andre's very versatile pianist. He's interested in so many different genres. Yeah, really. He's incredibly intelligent and very, very kind and generous, and I cannot say enough good things about him. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Ben Levin, okay. Tigran, oh. Tigran Hamasyan is incredible. A couple months ago, I had probably about 2 weeks where all I was listening to was his music because I was just floored. His music is so emotionally intense, yet gentle, and very, very bold at times, very colorful, rhythmically super interesting, and sincere, hip, very everything. I'm a huge Tigran Hamasyan fan. Let's see. It's been half an hour. I wonder if you guys have more questions. What I'm planning to do today is just continue to work on this edit that I have started with the Goldberg and try to figure out an angle to tackle that. And then put together that video on improvising in chord progressions in the style of Bach, which is, I don't know, I hesitate to say this out loud, but for me, a lot of times in studying Bach's lines, it's a point of neutrality, is that a word, or is it neutrality? It's neutral for me, because you can take that and apply it to so many different directions, but it's sort of a base foundation. And Bach has his unique voice and his style and his just his voice, but the way he builds music can, when broken down completely, is very neutral for me, which I appreciate. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that does to me. Let's see. I'm very curious about your album plans. It seemed last time you didn't want to talk about it, but if you could. I don't not want to talk about it. I just laugh and hesitate to talk about it in detail because it's there's nothing concrete around it. It's not funded, but it's partially supported by this fellowship program that I just finished. So they're providing me with some space and recording engineering help from the school. But that is only probably 1 or 2 pieces from the whole thing, because a lot of the pieces that I'm putting together for that album involve electronics or electronic keyboard. And they're helping me just do solo piano and perhaps prepared piano, but nothing is very concrete around it. I'm just heavily in the music making phase and practicing phase for that. And all of the pieces on there, I hope, and that is the plan, will be performable. And I think that is that's just something that's important to me, because earlier on I almost went down a path that involved just layering sounds. But this is just sort of a compilation of pieces that have meant a lot to me in terms of how they were sprouted. And it's a celebration of keyboard, basically, because I plan to use only keyboards for this album. And there are a lot of pieces that I've written or have began to write in the past that I never really finished. So this is an opportunity for me to do that. And yeah, I mean, I could answer any specific questions about it, but hopefully it all comes together. Meldow's Bach takes are awe-inspiring too. Yes, I agree. Especially like his rondo. Joe Chip, thank you so much. Obadiah, hi, hello. Obadiah has been supporting and watching this channel since the early days. By the way, this is a Patreon, I guess, this group. I don't want to call it Patreon because this is, you know, I feel like you guys are this special little knit family here. Back in the day, 2 years ago, when I started my channel, I actually used my English name. I had my name Alice. I don't know who all here is already familiar with that, but all throughout school, I was called Alice, and most of my friends still call me Alice. And I've since taken that out of my channel name, only for, I don't know, I just wanted simplicity. And Nare is a name that my father has given me, and given me with a lot of thought behind all the individual characters when translated into Chinese and Korean characters. So he is a huge inspiration to me artistically. He's a watercolor painter. And so I wanted to, just with all music activities in general, just carry on with my name, Nari. But Alice is sort of my school name, and Obadiah will remember that from way back when. So it's really cool. Thanks for sticking around all this time. Let's see. So anyway, he says it has a lot of great stuff on how improv was taught to classical musicians back in the day. Might be stuff you already know, but I thought you'd throw there. I guess he's referring to, oh, okay, an improvising video by Robert, ooh, how do you pronounce this? Jerdinjan? I definitely pronounced that wrong. Building musical minds in 18th century Naples. Okay, interesting. Wow, I always learn so much from you all. Let's see. Bati, can I get an autographed version? I will never sign an autograph. That is very awkward. Would you ever? Someone has asked me to do that. I think when I was in Boston. He seemed kind of confused, but I didn't mean it in a mean, negative way. I just cannot sign an autograph. Would you ever use a metronome to practice gradually increasing speed? The idea is common outside classical music, but is actually a good idea. I think it's common inside classical music as well. I know I've experienced this myself too, but I know quite a few piano teachers that use metronome tick marks as a standard way of enforcing progression onto students, which I have mixed feelings about. But for example, they'll say, okay, your homework for next week is to bring this to 186 instead of 170, something like that. I think it can help, definitely. I've used that before because it slows down. It provides a barrier in terms of how rushed you'll be in terms of building up speed. Excuse me, guys. Let's see. If you put up a Patreon thing for an album, I'm sure a lot of us would love to chip in. Thank you. I think part of the, not a challenge, but part of this whole thing, I would, the funds part will probably involve post-processing, like mixing and things like that. I'd like to try and do it with resources available, but until I finish writing and practicing it, and I'm in this kind of brewing stage and finalizing stage, I have no idea what will be required in terms of how to put that all together. But I appreciate you for saying that. Let's see. Is Seoul your last name? Oh, no, that is another misconception. Nare Seoul is my name, but for short, like my mom will call me Nare. She also, in Korea and a lot of other countries, we have a lot of nicknames. We have a lot of names. Sometimes my mom, when she rarely speaks English to me, but sometimes she does. She would put in an Alice there, but very rarely will she use Alice. I think because she's always speaking to me in Korean. And then she calls me Cheong, which is another name. And for me, I call my mom. She has 3 names too, which I never really think about. But yeah, it's like one of those things that I don't know how many of you all have nicknames or multiple names. I know one of my friends from Poland also explained to me everyone has a long name and then everyone has a short name, which is quite different than the long name. I guess that's similar. I guess that exists in the States too, or in English-speaking countries. If you're Robert, you're Rob. Joseph, Joe. It's, I guess, similar. Does your dad post any of his paintings online? No, he doesn't. I've been trying to encourage him to. He doesn't paint that much anymore. He's on the older side. My parents have quite a bit of an age difference. And for my age, my dad is much older than most of my friends. Playable means we'll get to see you live. Yes, hopefully. That is the plan. Joe Chip, you're internet famous now. No, not in the slightest. Do tell us if extra fun. Well, thank you so much. You guys are really wonderful. I really appreciate it. Juan, you do have 2 names in Spain. It's a common thing too. Cool. Name means west in English. Yeah, I remember you saying that. I think that's beautiful. I love names and hearing about what certain names mean, and also hearing about how someone was named a certain name. There's usually and oftentimes a reason behind parents choosing names. And for example, LA, my PBS Soundfield co-host, for the longest time, I just thought his name was LA after the city LA. But he explained to me his name is LA because his father's name is Arthur, and growing up, his full name, I guess, is Arthur as well. So everyone called him Little Arthur and LA for short. And I thought that was very endearing. All right, I think I will cap it to this for today. I know I was rambling on about all sorts of things, but it was really nice to hang out with you all. Let's see. The video, I may have 2 videos, or maybe one of the video will be for next week. I mean, for Patreon, because on the live stream topics page, which is now for me really just a topics page for either live streams or videos, I got 2 questions about exercises, and I have an exercise that I was working on very recently that can be very easily applied to any instrument, probably even the voice. And it's very simple to remember, which is a very important thing for me for warm-ups, I think. And it's surprisingly challenging for what it is. So you'll see when I put it out there, but I'll put that together. So everyone have a great Sunday wherever you are. I know where most of you are now, but I look forward to just being more in touch with you next week, and also through the videos and comments, messaging. Yeah, basically that is it. Have a nice day. See you guys. I'm just trying to look at some comments I missed. Okay, see you. Bye.